So I generally don't do this, mainly because I plug in this type of stuff in my videos. But here's my rant. So I was thinking this morning about just video games and how they've been progressing over time. And it's kind of frustrating because I think about it and I don't know, it might be just because I'm getting older. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just that the gaming world is very different than it was, let's say, 6 years ago. Um, but I've been noticing how it's just that like video games now, they don't come out with the same quality. You know, everyone's like, "Oh, no, 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 what are you talking about? Be careful. What are you trying to say?" It's just that, years ago, and I'm thinking specifically for MMOs. The first MMO that I ever played was Lineage 2. And I've said this multiple times in my first videos. My very first video was a video of Lineage 2. Um, so I have a very specific vision of how MMOs are. Mainly because, my first experience, my first touch with an MMO was Lineage 2. So that kind of defines what you would expect from MMOs from that point on. And, granted, I was very young. This was like 7 years ago, so I was like 11. Um, but at that time, I also started playing other games. Not that long after I started playing Lineage, I started playing games like Rose Online, which I remember was kind of difficult to get into the beta. And that was the first time I got into a beta in general. That was kind of the beginning of my introduction to online games. And some of you are listening to this and they're saying, oh, well, Lineage 2 is not even that old. Granted, some of you have played Ultima Online and a lot of the older MMOs. I consider Lineage an old MMO in general because it's about going to its 10-year anniversary, and it's been very special now. It's shaped my vision. I'll give you that, because it was a sandbox MMO. Even if back then there was no such there's no such thing as a sandbox MMOs. There was just MMOs. Nobody said, "Oh, this is a sandbox. This is a theme park." There was not that much of a difference, because in a way you had both in an MMO. So I know some of you are like confused right now because you don't understand what I mean by that. But when we say sandbox nowadays, the most typical example of sandbox, not an MMO, just the concept of a sandbox in a game, is Minecraft, right? That's a very, very specific example. But with MMOs back then, you still had a consistent world that had some sort of story. It had its names, it had its image, it had a way that it would try to approach players so that they can understand it in a specific way. So the storytelling, every person when they read something, or when they when they experience something, they see it in a different way. That's because that's the way your brain works, your perception. Every person is different. So for some people, something that's sad is happy. People work very weirdly. They're very different. But in a way, the game itself would have a way that it would try to make you perceive it, and that would kind of put everyone in sort of this specific line, kind of going, oh, he's the villain, he's the bad guy. Okay, we get him. That's Bayou, that's a big boss. Valakas, big fire dragon. We get it. We have to kill him. We have these couple of quests that kind of introduce us to him and what he is, and then we get a key that allows us to access him, and get the whole clan together and go and just fight him. So that in that sense, it did have sort of a story. Other than that, the world had this huge story that it wouldn't even force on you. You would just be able to go around and just explore it. I read a lot of the Lineage 2 story because I just found the game very interesting. A lot of people, they didn't feel that way. They didn't care. They didn't do a single quest in the game. You didn't have to. You could just grind. And people now complain, oh, this game's so grindy. But trust me, you have not played Lineage or some of the older MMOs to say what grindy is. Those games were really, really grindy. So in a way, nowadays, I'm seeing like other games like Wildstar coming out, and Wildstar is a very interesting example of how you can choose your paths, right? That's some of you that follow sort of the MMO market, you would know this, but in that game, you can choose a path, whether you want to be a scientist, whether you want to be a soldier, an adventure, you know, whether you want to go out exploring, you know, all that type of stuff. And in a way, you choose that, and that's great. You know, that's great stuff. I think MMOs need that a little bit more nowadays. Back in the day, though, you didn't really have like there was no formality to it. You just did it, and that's kind of what made it special. And I guess I have this problem also with other games. I mean, Wildstar, it's hard to say because I haven't played it yet. So obviously, you know, I need to see how it works. But it's this thing that now MMOs have where they try to put words, they try to formalize things, they try to put it all into some sort of term, some sort of concept in the game that has to be necessarily structured. They're just so afraid, I feel like, of just developers are just so afraid of just letting something flow and just give it a natural order. You know, players will sort of shape around it. You know, in Lineage, one example was dwarves. Dwarves were the crafters. They were also the scavengers, the people that could get resources. You know, granted, every person doesn't matter what race or class you were, you could still get, you know, rare items and all that. But the crafters, which was one of the professions the dwarves had this skill called spoil. And basically, you know, there's this little firework that came up on top of the enemy. It blows up, and it increases the drop rate, basically what you get, which made it easier, obviously, for dwarves to get items. And very often, what happened was they were the richest people in the game, so they ended up being clan leaders, right? Granted, now they weren't the best fighters; they had their limitations. So in a way, that gave us this order where you know, a lot of players, they would make a dwarf. You know, they have this dwarf that would be either a trader that they would put in a town AFK and, you know, just sell stuff. That's another topic I really miss, and I know this is probably never gonna come back into MMOs, but I really miss this sort of open market. No auction house, no sort of price arrangement, no sort of like machine that automatically lists from lowest price to highest price. You just had to go and search. You had to find it out yourself. You know, that's, I guess, the limitations of technology back then, maybe to a certain extent. I don't know. But it sort of bugs me that nowadays everything is controlled by the game system. Like everything, like the program itself has it in there for you. It feels like it limits you. It tries to give you more options, but in reality it kind of limits you in that way. It doesn't make it fun anymore. It doesn't make it exciting. And you know, Lineage, I remember playing on a private server, I believe it was Asterios, that had this guy called the item broker. What this guy did is basically you would click on him and you'd type in what item you wanted to look for. Generally the most popular items were listed by him automatically, but you can click on that and then he'd give you a list of all the people in a certain area, a certain range. It was like Krion Harbor was an example on that server where you know, people would be selling it. And you'd see the list and you'd see the prices that they would be selling it, but they were, I think, ordered just by recency. There was no, you know, there weren't different tabs. There was just recency. So the person that was last, that had just come over, he'd be at the bottom of the list generally, or something like that. I don't know. But he wouldn't sell you the item. You wouldn't just click on it. You have to, you know, he'd point you to where the person is, and you'd go and you'd find them. You know, he gives you this like little visual line, and you go and find him and talk to him, and then you buy the item. And it's like that little extra step of effort was, I don't know, kind of cool. You know, for some people it's like, oh, that's so annoying. But I mean, that's kind of what an MMORPG, I feel like, is supposed to have. I mean, it's not an action RPG like Diablo or a lobby-based game. The point of an MMO is for it not to be a lobby-based game, and that's what's happening recently. And it's kind of upsetting because that's kind of what's happening to Guild Wars. You know, Guild Wars 2 is a great game. I love it. It's one of my favorite games right now. I mean, in the last year and a half, it's the game that I've stuck with the most. But it feels like the world itself doesn't feel like a world. It just feels like this giant lobby. And there's like the instances, and every zone is an instance, and you just go to it. And, you know, granted, the game's done a pretty good job of making everything feel sort of open worlded, even if every zone is an instance in a way. But it's like there's a separate zone for PvP. You queue for world versus world. I mean, sure, now they're adding this new thing where when you queue, you can just go to this map, the Edge of the Mists, where you can just sort of do stuff while you're waiting for your queue to be ready. You know, but it's all like, it's a lobby to a lobby to a lobby. And I don't know if all of you are getting what I'm trying to say, but it just all feels so automated. And it's the same thing with transportation. You have to teleport to places. all your waypoints, all your vistas, everything is marked on your map. You set an undiscovered point of interest even is marked on your map. You can see where that point of interest is. Um, and that's kind of upsetting because it's the whole point of it is to be, you want to have exploration, yet it gives you where the place is. So what's the point of it being there? I mean, what's the point of having an undiscovered point of interest if it's already discovered? It's already there. You just have to go and find it. You know, just go get in a range to where it says that you've, it recognizes that you've reached the point, and then you have it. It's the same thing with vistas and, even the quests, how they're spread out. You see all the quests in the little hearts, right? And dynamic events, it just all feels so automated. Like you're just doing these things over and over and over again. And I'm fine with if this was an action RPG like Warframe. Warframe I consider an action RPG. I know it's very different than like Diablo and all those games, but in a sense it has that sort of how do I put it? Like Diablo 3 more specifically, I guess would be a better example. In Path of Exile, you have the portals, right? The little town. You have the portals that take you to different locations. So in a way, that the little town is your lobby. In Warframe, the lobby is just a lobby. It's this map of the whole the whole solar system. My bad. And the solar system, you just click on the planet, you queue up, you wait for the people to get in. And I feel like I don't want to blame this on MOBAs, but this has been happening ever since I've noticed it personally, more and more since League of Legends and a lot of the rise of sort of the MOBA games. So because in there you just queue up and you wait and then you start again. And it just loses that feel of it being an MMO. You don't go, like back in the day when we played games like Lineage, again, going back to the past, you would go physically to the place of the cave of where Valakas would be, or whatever boss, dragon or whatever. You'd have to go through that cave. You'd have to fight your way through. You'd make a whole line of people that, a system that protect each other. And that it just created a feel of you're actually going into a dungeon trying to secure a path. Guild Wars did something very good that I really enjoyed. It was sort of the one social thing that was very iconic for the game. I really loved it. Guild missions, or guild, whatever they're called, missions, I think. But in guild missions, have different types, like the rush. The guild rush is probably the most fun. It's basically a race where you get transformed into an animal, or whatever mob, and you have a set of skills, generally survival skills like heal yourself up, speed boost, those types of things. You have to make your way through a path and all the little flags, and get to the end, get your prize, the guild combinations. I love that. The reason why is when the people, there was teamwork. There was a lot of teamwork. You have like 40 people that are doing that. It was in the open world in a sense. You were going through an actual zone. You'd see other players walking by and doing their own sort of thing, and maybe they get caught up and they want to do it with you as well. And when the people complete it, whoever completes it, they go back and they start securing the path and killing all the mobs, so that the transformed players who are weaker, they can't really fight. They have to run through the mobs. They have a secure path. And that was something really cool that kind of made me feel, yeah, this is an MMO. This is what MMOs are about. It's about that community feel, which is really missing everywhere else, really, in games. And and I don't know what Wildstar is going to be like. I hope it gets rid of that. But there's just, and I know people are just getting lazy maybe over time. They don't want to go on a mount or on a train or whatever, and then in the game and get physically to the location and wait for 10 minutes. I know, I completely understand that. I know how it feels, but then don't play the MMO. I mean, sure, the easiest solution is let's just make a bunch of MMOs that get rid of that whole system. But then the problem is, you see what the problem here is, right? There are no MMOs of that old type. And what does that mean? I mean, sure, like some are saying, Krion, just stop playing MMOs. They're clearly not for you anymore. And I really wish that I could just do that, right? I don't want to play MMOs anymore. They're not fun, But I do. That's the problem. I actually do want to play MMOs. It's just so hard to find an MMO that kind of takes some of the old systems, flushes it out, and makes it, kind of more modern, with the modern, better graphics, and graphics don't even have to be that great. I'm just saying, like, just looks a little bit more polished, the sort of 2014 look. Happy New Year, by the way. That's what I should have started with. Happy New Year. But my point is, the sandbox. Now it's all about either being sandbox or theme park. There's no sort of mid ground. That's kind of what I started with. Lineage 2 was a game that I dare I say it was in the middle. You could go into the lore. It had a lot of lore, a lot of good quality lore. I really liked it. But at the same time, you didn't have to do any of it at all. And the players were the ones that shaped the world. The world has a story. My phone is going off. My Steam is going off. Damn. My point is, though, the world had its own... It was being shaped by the players. The players had control. They were the clan leaders. They were the ones that conquered the castles, that set the tax rates. And, they were the ones that fought out in the world. And they shaped the history of the server. Every server had a history. And nowadays... it's just a story that guides you. You do your personal story. You're the great hero. Not that's my second point. I'll get to that in a little bit. But back then, the players shaped the future of the world, the history of the world. But the world at the same time had a very good background, and not only just a background. That original story, it kept going on in the future as well. As new updates came out, there were new villains, there was some new lore, some explanations of old lore. It had all that. So can you really call that just a sandbox MMO? Because for me, and nowadays, a sandbox is just you define the world. It's just you. You shape it, you make it, like Minecraft, right? Minecraft doesn't have any story really. I mean, sure, there are little tidbits and things, like the little CDs that you gather, and there's like, I know, there's like the Herobrine, there's this like 101 or 13 or whatever, disc 13, that has this very fuzzy noise and people think it's Herobrine or whatever. But it has a little bit of like tidbits of his story and the ending credits and the Ender world or whatever it's called. I've never killed the dragon or gone there at all, so again, I have a little bit of bias there. But overall, you're the one that shapes the world. You physically dig, you make the castle, you make a castle if you want to, or whatever, you place it there. In Lineage, you sort of had a little bit of a limitation. You couldn't just like go around and just build whatever you want in the world. It had its specific locations, it had its places, but and sorry, for some reason the recording actually stopped. But like castles like Dion or Adan, the capital, it had its own story. It meant something when you had it. You actually felt like, we have the capital. This is the capital. This is a place that has history, and now we are going to shape the future of this history. So that was really cool about games back then. It's just missing now. It's just not about that. There was obviously PKing, PvPing outdoors. You could kill whoever you wanted to. People now complain like, oh no, I don't want to have all these like just griefers, just people coming in. But doesn't that make the game fun? Like if there are too many rules, that's the problem. There are a certain amount of rules. Back then, if you killed someone, your name went red, you're most likely going to get killed in the next 10-15 minutes because someone's going to, type in global chat, oh, there's this guy here. Well, regional chat, there was no really such thing as global other than trade chat, I guess. But, there's this griefer here, just go kill him, they come and kill you. If you're very strong, you might make a little bit of a last stand, but they'd most likely get you. So... it had some rules, right? But it didn't limit you. Like, you could decide not to follow the rules, and you'd get a punishment. You'd be taking a risk, but still, you could choose not to follow the rules. Whereas nowadays, the rules, there's just so many rules in MMOs. There's so much that I really have no freedom to do anything. I can't go around and do whatever I want in Guild Wars. I really can't. The game, the thing that MMOs advertise is make your, like, you choose what your path you want your path to be. I don't really have that much of a free path, really. And I know, I feel like it's a lot, in recent years, I guess Mass Effect is a good example of that, where, Mass Effect, you really don't have a free path. You have choices. You do make choices, sure, but they're not choices that you really make. They're scripted choices that are there that lead you to other scripted choices. And that's kind of what the personal story in Guild Wars 2 is also like, even a lot less limited. Mass Effect has a lot more of a rich, it still has a different ending, it has all those other features. But games like Elder Scrolls, you can, in a way, there's the scripted, that's what I mean. There's the world that's around you that's already scripted, it's there, but you didn't have to follow it, really. You didn't have to do any of that stuff. You could kill... I don't think you can kill all the, you couldn't really kill quest givers, I believe. I think you can only, like, make them tired whatever. But you don't have to follow any of that stuff. You know, you won't progress in the story or get anywhere, but you can go around and just travel around and do whatever the hell you want. And that's kind of missing from MMOs. It's really sad when I think about it. You know, and then my second point was, again, you're the great hero in MMOs. You're the great hero who has to save the world, and you know, I guess to some people that appeals, right? There's something very appealing about that, you know, being the center of attention, right? But I don't want to be the hero. Well, let me put it this way. I want to turn into the hero, obviously, right? In a game, when I play a game, I want to become a person that has some sort of influence on the world. But I don't want to start off that way, you know, kill the killer of Isomir, the Slayer. That's a Guild Wars thing, where if you play a Norn, you kill this worm in the first 5 minutes of the game, and already you're the Slayer and everyone loves you. And it's the same with every other race, obviously. I don't know all the scripts, but you know, there's like saving a town if you're a human, you become, you know, like Centaur Slayer or whatever. But it's the same thing with WoW now. I started going back into WoW recently. I haven't done really any videos of that, but I'll eventually get into it. I'm still in like break a little bit, so it's kind of hard to record and everything. But even there, you're the hero, right? You know, thank you for saving these people that have drowned in the shores in front of Darnassus, hero. You know, thank you for, you know, fighting off the elementals, hero. Talking about the Warden and the Night Elf stories and the new Cataclysm story. So it's always about being the hero, the hero. In Lineage, you weren't the hero. You were this guy. You didn't even have a class. You started off as either a fighter or a mystique. You know, that was as basic as that. You come out and you're nobody. Nobody cares about you. There's this guy who's trying to learn how to be a soldier, a fighter. And you start off this little base. You kill a bunch of gremlins. You go and you learn like some of the basics. Like it's like a tutorial. You know, gives you some items and stuff. Not really anything of value. Most people even ignored it a lot of the time. But you were nobody. You were nobody, and you became a somebody. You know, by the time you get to max level, that's a long way, but a lot of the time, even when you get to max level, you're still around average. I mean, you can kill some guards. You know, you can do some damage to NPCs and around towns, and you know, you could do some stuff, right? But you weren't still really a hero. You were just a guy with good armor, good gear, and all the skills. That's what you were. That's what you are. Really, you're like, let's be honest. You're not a hero saving a world, really. You're saving NPCs. That doesn't make you anybody. That's what Guild Wars and WoW and a lot of the other MMOs are doing. You're not doing anything. You're not a hero. It's just an illusion of you being a hero. And granted, it's a video game. Sure, okay. But when in Lineage and a lot of old school MMOs, you afterwards, depending on what you did, whether you were a good clan leader or a good, you know, you didn't have to be a leader. You could just be a fighter, someone that's a fighter in a clan that, you know, became famous, or an Olympiad, or someone famous on the server. You end up becoming that person, and everyone starts knowing you. They either know you as a really cool guy, gives out gold, you know, goes around, you know, helps people, just a nice person. Or you could be that ruthless clan leader, goes around, gets a bunch of people and just kills newbies and just people, terrorizes the lands and takes off farming zones and just occupies them, and nobody else is able to kill mobs because of them. And you know, everyone's like, oh, that's so annoying, really? I can't play the game because... But that's what an MMO is. The whole point of an MMO is don't get into it if you don't have the time to play it or the patience to play it. Because I tend to think time and patience, you know, they're very similar. They're very often intertwined, but they have their differences. And that's what defined you, you know, who you actually were. You influenced other players. You didn't influence maybe the NPCs and the story and the world that much, but you influenced other players. And at the end of the day, I think that's more important than influencing some computer. You know, that doesn't matter to me. I don't care. So, you know, that's kind of my second point. And obviously, you know, depending on what choice of race and, you know, the class you chose, they were very unique, very distinct, and they kind of mattered. Whereas nowadays, it's, you know, very small differences. WoW has a little bit with the racials and all that, and I get it. You know, people, like, they're trying to dumb down MMOs so that, you know, casuals can play them. I myself consider myself a casual. I am a casual. I don't play games that hard. But I like being in an environment where I can be, you know, I can just be casual and sort of play around and, you know, for 30 minutes, you know, chat with people, you know, go around, you know, do some quests or whatever. participate every weekend or something like that when there's a big event, and maybe not be the center of it, be the big hero, but watch other people do really cool stuff and maybe record it and do a video about it. And I think that's really cool. I'm not the big, guy that thinks of the big strategies, how to take over a dungeon, how to speed run something. I'm not any of that at all. But I like being in an environment where there is that. I like being in an environment where I can watch that and still be comfortable and kind of play around. And I felt like that in Lineage. I'm telling you all these horrible things. I've been PK'd, I've been griefed, I've been trying to do. Sometimes I've tried to play, go out of zone, and I wouldn't be able to level up because there would be some guy there who'd kill all the mobs, and he'd maybe have a party, and then they'd kill me, and I wouldn't be able to go there because every time I go there I keep getting killed. They get more karma, obviously, so that means they attract guards when they pass through a town, so they get punished in a way. But I also started up some drama. I go into the chat and the town is like, oh, these guys are killing, they're killing, and someone would come up and be like, okay, I'm gonna help you, let's go, we're gonna find those guys, we're gonna kill them, we're gonna redeem you. So that's a lot what DayZ is like nowadays. I feel like that's why people love that game. It's clunky, bad controls. It's so far from being finished. I'm talking about standalone. Even the original, it's so far from being done in any way. But it's fun because people at the end of the day care about the drama. An online game, the whole point is about the drama, about playing. You could be a pro still, but you'd still get involved in the drama. You can do your own stuff. Be solo. I watch Lyric. He's a pretty famous, if not one of the most famous DayZ players, really. And he's called the Bean Bandit. He plays alone most of the time, or with another person, at most 2 people. But he can still. It takes skill. It still takes skill to survive in a way. But it's more about the drama and the fun, and that's what games are kind of about. And I get it. There's games that are much more hardcore, both on PvE side and PvP side. PvE wise, I guess it would be like Path of Exile. A lot of theory crafting, getting big builds, and being better and killing stuff faster, mobs and stuff. That's all great. You can still go around. There's like the cutthroat thing where you can go into another person's dungeon while he's trying to play, kill him, right, all that. And same with Warframe, I guess. And then there's also games that are purely PvP, and now you're not expecting me to say this, but shooters, that's what they kind of are, like Counter-Strike and Team Fortress and Natural Selection, whatever. I'm playing Natural Selection right now, that's why I mention it. Planet Side, those are the games like that. I felt like the reason I recorded this is because I've been thinking about this. It's been on my mind this whole morning, and I just felt like saying it finally. And this has been something that's been building up for years now, and in my mind, sort of, I've been feeling like this about games. And I hope that some people understand. I know I've been like really this is going on for like 30 minutes now. I've been saying so much, but I hope people actually make out some actual decent points that I've been trying to make. I hope that they make sense. Because sometimes when I get really, really excited about a topic like this, I start talking really fast. And sometimes I kind of lose the connections and everything. But I hope you can bear through that and you maybe understand what I mean. And I hope some people feel like that as well. Because honestly, lately I've been feeling like I've been kind of the only person, not the only, but I feel like I've been one of the few people that's been feeling this way about video games. I don't know why it is. I have some ideas why. I mentioned them previously. Me just being used to the older games and all that. But I don't know what it is. A lot of people are playing, all my friends, playing League of Legends and all these instance lobby-based games and just the popular games, and I get it. Different games, sure. They take skill. They have tournaments. You can watch the tournaments with your favorite players and all that. That's great. I think that's great. But I feel like people are starting to lose sort of when it comes to MMOs specifically. They're sort of starting to lose that enthusiasm to play an actual MMO. I don't think that people nowadays want to actually play an MMO. I think they want to play a world, an MMO, a multiplayer game, just a multiplayer online game, not massively really, just a big world with an instance that queues you up directly for everything. And that's kind of sad, for people like me who really into the older stuff. I hope, I have some hopes. There's some games that I'm looking forward to. Firefall is one because I've been promising a lot of stuff that I really want to see, but I really hope they actually do that. Another one would be, The repopulation, you know, that's another one that I'm kind of hyped for. Obviously, Eve is a game that, you know, everyone would be saying right now, you should play that game, that's a game for you, but I can't really get into it. That's a game that's just overly too complicated, too complicated. A game needs balance. It needs balance between everything. And people say, oh, well, that means it's for casuals, because if everything is balanced out in you, that's for casuals. No, it doesn't mean that it's for casuals. That's not what balance means. I can go into this whole other talk just about, not just, today has been just mainly about online games, but it's the same thing with consoles when I think about it, you know, the quality that goes into console, you know, with the new PS4, and I've been, you know, PS4, Xbox, even the Wii U, but I've been playing, you know, just generally Nintendo since I was a kid. It's been kind of my thing. I don't care. The games are fun. I've always enjoyed them. I've always liked how those games are very simple in concept, but, you know, some of them can go into a lot of depth, and they can allow the competitive players to really flourish. And the great thing is, you can play that game, you can still have so much fun, and you can watch those really cool guys doing amazing things. Super Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, all examples of that. Zelda is a PvE, I guess, competitive game, just like Dark Souls. That people do speedruns. One of the most speedrun games, dare I say, where there's so many people that have been competing to get, you know, there are different even like types of speedruns, you know, zero, you know, just the any percent, the 100%. It's fun to watch that stuff, and at the same time being able to just play the game and enjoy it. You know, every now and then trying to do a move or two and kind of finding out how much you suck and how much better other people that actually do it competitively are. But I hope that MMOs maybe get something like that, you know, sometime soon. You know, Firefall, the repopulation. I don't know Elder Scrolls Online. I know that it's going to be having like the open world sort of area where there's like the 3 factions competing, and you know, but I don't know if it's going to be really what I'm looking for. Wildstar, again, 2 factions, a lot in concept, a lot like WoW, but it has its, you know, niches. It's unique in its own way. But you know, it's Darkfall. Oh yeah, let me just mention this, and I'm almost done. Darkfall is a game that I really liked how it looks, but again, too clunky. Is it really that hard to make a game that has decent, you know, interface, gameplay? Graphics don't have to be that great. Just make it, you know, make somewhat sense. You know, don't make it too clunky. Don't make it like, just try not to be as, if Daisy is kind of the bottom line, you know, a little bit better than Daisy. You know, make it make sense. You know, the controls and everything. Make it feel natural. And then just make it, you know, make it so that players are able to have an influence on the world, have things to do, and you know, the world has some decent little bit of story that, you know, it's not too forced on the players, but you know, you can still engage in it. But still, Daisy, by the way, Daisy is a great example. I'm really enjoying that game. I think it's a great game. I'll be posting some videos of it when I actually get some people to play with, because I think it's much more fun to play those types of games with, you know, a friend or two. So this is my rant about the new year, 2014, and I guess how video games are. And it's been pretty long, 35 minutes, my god. But I felt like I should say all of this, and I'm really looking forward to 2014. I hope that gaming changes a little bit. It gets a little bit of the old, you know, as I like to say, you know, look back to the past and aim for the future, but live in the present. So, you know, next gen, oh my god, I have to do another video about next gen consoles. But you know, next gen really right now is next gen. It's kind of the stuff that it really doesn't work. It's next gen for now. Like, we're living in the present. This stuff is next gen. It doesn't really, I feel like it hasn't even been properly tested if it works that well. But for some reason they're selling it to you, and you know, you're buying it, you're getting into it, and then you're seeing all these games. It just doesn't work that well. You regret it afterwards. Anyways, that's a whole nother talk. But I'm just trying to say, stay in the present, but you know, look back to the past. Get some stuff out of there. You know, get the best from the past and strive for the future. But live in the present. Don't live in the future. Don't live in the past. Live in the present. That's my rant for 2014. See you guys.